Hi everyone, welcome to On Deck. My name is Ten, and I'm a third generation tarot reader, a writer, and a mentor with the Center for Creative Writing. We're currently working our way through the major arcana of the tarot and lining up the Fool's journey with the narrative arc for our main character. So this month, we are looking at the Temperance card. Okay, this is number 14. We've just had the Death card, and we are looking at everything, like all the pieces that are left over, and we're trying to decide kind of what to do next. Okay. In the major arcana, the the Temperance card represents art, in that if you think about a painting, right, there's a literal cost to it. You know, how much the canvas costs, the paint, the brushes, the easel, the art school, right? There's a literal cost to the painting, but that's not what the painting is worth, right? So this card is about kind of taking different pieces, picking up pieces, and drawing on your own inner creativity. As a human, we are creative, right? We create, that's what we do. And whether your art is creating, birdhouses, or a pot roast, or a mural, or a work of, fiction, or a classical composition, or friendship bracelets with your kids, like that's all art. You're taking physical things that have a literal value and creating something priceless, or creating something with those things and your own skill that are of a higher value than just the literal value. Okay, so if you take a look at our Temperance card here, this is like represented as the angel Gabriel, and he's got 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on land. So he's kind of balancing between the physical, right, and the emotional. And when we create, that's where we create from, is our emotional experiences in the world. We create from, our emotional truth, which is different than the literal truth. Okay. And he's kind of pouring these cups, this water, back and forth between these 2 cups. And sometimes the, symbology here is like turning water into wine, right? You take something, and with your own skill and power and emotion and talent, turn it into something else. Okay, so what does this mean for our main character if we're looking at our narrative arc of this story, right? Our main character has just had this either tragedy, they've lost somebody, right, with the Death card, or almost lost somebody, or they've almost died, right? And things are shifted into a new perspective now. So our main character has to embody the artist in whatever way that means. Maybe, they have to pull together different pieces from a junkyard to engineer a new car to get them the rest of their journey, or some kind of booby trap to catch the bad guy, right? Or, some kind of research, and they're running through the library, pulling out different translations of things, like whatever it is. Your main character is going through kind of the shrapnel, right? What's left over after this tragic event, and making something new out of it, because they have had an emotional experience and they have learned something from that experience, and they're taking that, new knowledge and that emotion, and they're looking at what they've got in front of them, and they're creating the thing that they need to get them to the next step on their journey, or maybe to get them all the way to the end. This is, I'm trying to think of a good example, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. In a movie where the main character is like teamed up with a buddy and they're trying out, it's like a little montage. They're trying out all different kinds of catalytic converters or fuels or whatever. And, hand me a socket wrench, hand me a screwdriver. And they're putting together some kind of thing that shouldn't work, but it does because of the ingenuity and the emotion, the experience that the main character has lived through. Okay, so let's do a little writing prompt here. Let's pull a few cards and see if we can get a writing prompt for this scene in this situation here. Okay, those are 3 cards. All right, so we have, Four of Wands. That's definitely a coming together. An 8 of Wands. Ooh, and a 3 of Swords. Okay. Make sure you can see all those. Let's start with the 3 of Swords because that's kind of the most prickly one here. The 3 of Swords is kind of like the minor arcana death card. That would also be, the 10 of Swords. But the 3 of Swords is like the death of a feeling, of a relationship, like a heartbreak, being betrayed, right? So this could indicate that their, main character, the death that we experienced last month, right? Whatever that scene was, that was the heartbreak. That was the grief, right? That was the kind of pain that's motivating this. Or if you want to throw a kink in the plot, you could have, your B character working with your main character, right? Coming together, with the 4 of Wands is a marriage card, but it's also like just a foundation card. It's like coming together and building a strong foundation. It's also like a finish line, crossed a finish line, they've celebrated something. And the 8 of Wands is very rapid movement, travel across long distances, like rapidly traveling. You see the scenes where they're galloping the horse at breakneck speed across the desert, right? That's kind of the same feeling as the 8 of Wands. So there's a lot of different interesting kind of scenes you could come up with from these cards. It might be that the main character is so turned around by their loss that they kind of fall into this marriage or this partnership or this kind of union, which very rapidly devolves into heartache. And they realize that they were just trying to fill in, the gap, the hole that whoever died left. Okay. But if we're thinking about in terms of like, we need to kind of pull together, patch something together, to get it to work. That could be this, where, people come together, or maybe like they reach out to a contact to get a part or a book or a formula or, whatever aligns with your story. And this is kind of that montage of putting the thing together, piecing all the things together, and then somebody steals it from them and betrays them with it. Or they realize that if they use this thing that they've created, they're betraying somebody. That either they're betraying the person who they lost or almost lost, or that the grief that has changed them so much that they end up using what they have made to betray themselves or to betray somebody who was important to them. Okay, so that's your writing prompt for this week. Write us a scene where your main character is on the other side of some tragic or almost tragic loss, and they need to go within themselves with this Temperance card and create art, create something that is more than the sum of its parts. And the way they do that is with a union with somebody, maybe an unlikely pairing. They're very rapidly moving through creating this thing. Maybe not, like there's no swords here. It's just wands. Wands is creativity and passion, but maybe they're not thinking it through. Maybe they're not seeing all of the ramifications of their actions, and they get betrayed by it. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for On Deck this month, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks.